One of the most common questions we as a jewelry casting manufacturer get asked by a lot of our jewelry designer customers is regarding the sourcing of stones and chains, and who exactly is responsible in sourcing those. If you are responsible, where can you find the stones and chains direct from those suppliers? A few of my customers have had experience with working or being in contact with other jewelry manufacturers and are told different answers. So in this video, I'm going to share with you how we go about in terms of what I tell my customers and how my manufacturing plant in Thailand works when it comes to sourcing stones and chains for our customers. And this will hopefully just help you understand how different manufacturers operate so that, if you're a jewelry designer wanting to incorporate stones and chains into your new jewelry collection, then you're a little bit prepared when it comes to reaching out to different jewelry manufacturers. Obviously, if you're designing pendants, you obviously want to have a chain to go with it. So asking about chains is a totally valid question that customers ask us all the time. I'll also be giving you some insight on the whereabouts my customers get their stones and chains from and the popular stones that they order, as well as the chains, common chain lengths, etc. So stay tuned to the very end while I'll be covering all of that. And if any of you guys are new here to this channel, welcome. Hello, I'm Kim, owner of Thai Design Distributors. We're a third-generation family business since 1975, owning our manufacturing plant in Thailand, specializing in producing high-end sterling silver and gold jewelry exclusively for our designers. We've always had our headquarters in London and now a sales and support office in the US. Please get familiar to this channel by watching my intro video, which gives you an insight about my background in the jewelry industry and the purpose of this channel. And please continue to support the channel by liking and subscribing for all my latest tips and videos on jewelry manufacturing. So in previous videos, I've mentioned about some manufacturers, including ourselves, having to, on occasion, outsource certain stones and chains. But I really just wanted to dedicate a video solely on covering all of that in detail and how we as a manufacturer go about with working with a customer who wants us to find certain stones for them, as well as chains, so we can assemble, put together everything, and then send the completed jewelry collection to them. So let's say we have a new customer and they've explained to me that their new jewelry collection have some stones embedded into the jewelry, and they've asked us if we can provide chains to go with their pendants too. Let's start off with stones. One of the first things that I have to ask them is what kind of stones that they're wanting to use, just because I know what my manufacturing plant can and cannot source. The common and, more commercial stones we can quite easily source for the customer, but the more rarer stones might be a little bit more challenging. So when I mean by commercial stones, I mean your semi-precious stones, your amethyst, peridot, citrine, blue topaz, etc. Those are common stones that we're able to source for our designer customers, especially if they want them in the common or standard size. So let's say, for example, a round-shaped stone anywhere from 2 millimeters to an 8 millimeter semi-precious stone. We've been around for almost 50 years, so we've got lots of stone suppliers that we keep in touch with and support, enabling us to have that accessibility to get those stones for our customers. I would be very surprised if you are in contact with a jewelry manufacturer who doesn't have contact stone supplies, particularly for the more common stones that I've just illustrated. So worth asking the question, guys, can they source these particular stones for me? Again, as I've said in previous videos, be specific and clear when you're communicating to a potential supplier about the type of stone that you'd like them to source for you. For example, in the past, I've had customers explicitly requesting a certain semi-precious stone, let's say a blue topaz, to be a darker shade of blue as opposed to a lighter blue color. If you have a specific expectation, make sure you relay that to your supplier, because for me as a manufacturer, I would need to communicate that to our purchasing officer for them to then contact the various stone suppliers that we use to source stones. That's pretty straightforward when it comes to sourcing semi-precious stones. Now, for precious stones such as emeralds, sapphires, diamonds, again, it's probably more important for you to be even more clear, especially if you're wanting diamonds to be used. As you know, with diamonds, a small difference in the stone grade can very much affect the price of it. So you might need to just do some research to determine what grade or clarity you're looking for. The supplier should clarify that with you anyway. So if you're a little bit unsure, just be honest. A number of customers have come to us saying that designs X, Y, and Z will have diamonds in it, but they really don't know what grade they want for the diamond. If that's the situation, we typically quote the customer on a medium to high grade diamond. So just somewhere in the middle where the stone isn't cloudy, but perhaps it's not a top brilliant white either. Anyway, it gets the ball rolling. And in my opinion, it's a good starting point because let's say I go back to the customer with a price quotation and they say the overall price, so the metal plus the stone, diamond in this case, is too expensive. Then it allows me to explore other options in potentially reducing the price within the customer's budget, whether that's opting for a lesser grade of diamond or reducing the weight of the metal, etc. So again, be specific from the start, and that will allow you and your supplier to get on the right footing in that first initial call. In my experience, things can get a little more challenging when a customer is requesting or wanting to incorporate a more rare stone. Now, they may have chosen that stone because it could be in trend, or they've just come across it somewhere and want to use it as part of their new jewelry collection. Whatever the case may be, remember that you might run into some difficulty if you're anticipating a manufacturer like myself to be able to source it easily. A few times I've had to remind my customers that our forte is the actual casting or stamping, the quality that we deliver, turnaround, etc. So unless you are contacting a casting company that includes a stone cutting department in-house, then typically when it comes to sourcing the rarer kind of stone, what we and a lot of other manufacturers typically do is still try to see whether we can source it. Sometimes we have luck and we're able to successfully find the stone, but in some cases we're not able to. So if that's the latter, an option worth exploring for you, the jewelry designer, is to research and source the stone. I want to point out that a couple of my customers who's developing jewelry where the primary focus of the piece or pieces is on the actual stone itself. So it's not uncommon for my customers to have taken time to research and source a stone supplier in order to find the particular stone. One of the advantages of doing that is having the ability to be in control with all the communication relating to that stone, whether it's asking questions such as the quality, any certification of the stone or its origin, particularly if you're sourcing sustainable or ethically sourced stones. Questions about achieving a particular cut of the shape, etc., because you're in communication directly with the stone cutter or supplier, as opposed to working with a casting company such as myself, whose main focus is on the manufacturing of the metal and being the middle person really between you and the stone supplier. Another advantage is that you have the ability to negotiate on the price, especially once they send you a sample of the stone for you to see and test out the quality. Working directly with the stone supplier is also beneficial if you're sourcing an expensive stone. And so a supplier's reputation, their history, and maybe other customers' reviews will be important to you. A number of times I've had new customers explain that they already have a good relationship with their stone supplier and they trust the stones that they buy from them. And they'll either send me the stones directly so that my production team can use them to set into the silver or gold jewelry that we're manufacturing for the customer. For Thai Design, we're fortunate to always have had our headquarters in London. So we've historically and presently still have customers send us stones that they want incorporated with or into their jewelry. And so once my London team receives them, they'll just forward the stones directly to my manufacturing plant in Thailand. It's always been really easy and convenient for UK and European customers to do that. However, it might be the case where the manufacturer that you're working with can receive the stones directly from the stone supplier, as that might be a little bit more affordable as opposed to you receiving the stones and then sending them on to your manufacturer, especially if they are, for example, on the other side of the world. But note that an advantage of doing that is your ability to quality check the stones or the materials, whatever you've outsourced, to make sure you're happy with the quality, it's got the right quantity that you've ordered, etc., before you then send it off to your supplier. So in other words, you don't have to worry about any surprises once it reaches your manufacturer. Having said that, if you've already got a good and established relationship with your stone supplier, then there should obviously be a trust that whatever they are sending directly to your manufacturer from their premises is exactly what you're expecting and, of course, what you've paid for. In regards to finding stone suppliers, a lot of stone suppliers may be found in countries like India or Pakistan, just in that region of the world where they've historically always been well known for supplying as well as cutting beautiful quality gemstones. Generally, a lot of the stone suppliers in Thailand are also from India, so there's no surprises there. Thailand has historically been well known for its setting of gemstones, but if you are at a starting point where you're trying to find or contact stone suppliers directly, I just know that A lot of my customers have sourced their stones separately and have easily found stone suppliers in those countries where they've grown to have a really good business relationship with. And I am all for support of that. Now, I've mentioned about the use of other materials, so not gemstones. And I just want you guys to bear in mind that certain manufacturers like ourselves have the capabilities of sourcing and cutting other materials such as shell, meaning mother of pearl, or onyx, turquoise, lapis, malachite, etc. That skill is a handmade craftsmanship that's been taught through generations. And it's something that we're very proud of because it's that skill that can be hard to find at this day and age where so many people are, using machinery and less so on handcrafted work. So that's with stones and materials. Now I want to just talk about chains because, again, we get asked this question a lot. Naturally, if you are creating a pendant, you would want a chain to go with it. And you don't necessarily want to be messing about with finding a different chain supplier because really the two kind of go hand in hand. The chain is part of the necklace piece. So in my experience with knowing how other manufacturers in the jewelry industry work, the majority of them will be able to source the chains for you. I think the limitation can be on exactly what type or style of chain you're looking for. For me, as I've been doing this for 18 years and I've seen what the most popular chains that our customers have chosen, I would say that the most popular are going to be cable chains, trace chains, and Rolo chains. Perhaps 15 years ago, snake chains were very popular, but keeping it current, I would say that now cable chains are very popular. And, people just really like the style of cable chains because it's strong, it's aesthetically very pleasing to look at, and it goes with a lot of different style pendants. Similarly with other style chains, you can also choose a different size gauge. So it could be a thinner to a thicker chain of the same style. For me, we have loads and loads of different chains that we offer to our customers, and we buy these chains typically in a small bulk, especially the more popular style chains from various chain suppliers. Now, FYI, manufacturing chains is totally different to manufacturing jewelry. Special machines are used, and the majority of chains are made in Italy because in Italy, they've got these special chain machines, and they just pump those chains out in meters or on the roll. It's historically always been that way. For us, we only manufacture the larger chains. So let's say a larger link, which is probably a customer's bespoke design. So if the chain consists of larger links of a particular measurement, then again, that's a CAD to resin to mold design, which we'll produce exclusively for them. If it's more your standard chain, then we'll just order it from one of our chain suppliers and order X amount of meters on a roll. So again, if you guys are looking to get hold of your own chains directly from a chain supplier, look into chains manufactured in Italy because that's what they're just well known for manufacturing. I'll be honest, and I think it's a good idea for you to get a price comparison anyway between what a chain manufacturer is charging you versus it coming from your jewelry casting supplier. There is, of course, a convenience with going through your jewelry manufacturer as they'll source, buy, and receive the chains for you. So you don't really have to worry about the logistics of things such as posting and paying for a bunch of chains to them. But just so you know, many of the chain supplies, for example, in Thailand, are manufactured and made in Italy, but they're just distributed around the world. Once you know what chain you're looking for, let your supplier, whether that's your chain or jewelry supplier, know. Again, images are always great, and better still if you have an idea on the length of chain that you want. Typically, the most popular chain length would be either a 16 to an 18 inch. So a 16 inch is a sort of thing that's sitting on the base of the neck, like the one I'm wearing. However, if you have a larger and a heavier pendant, you may want to opt for a longer length. And if so, there's 20 to 24 inches, which is popular. The one I'm wearing now is 34, 35 inches. When I say, for example, a 16 to 18 inch length, what I mean is that we would supply the chain at 18 inches and then 2 inches short of that will have another jump ring. Therefore, you don't need to order two length sizes of the chain, but you get the 16 plus the 2 inches extension to 18 inch chain all in one, if that makes sense. Lastly, whether it's gemstones or chains that you're looking for your jewelry manufacturer to source for you, or you're planning on contacting that stone or chain supplier directly, be aware of their minimum orders or quantities or minimum spending that may be part of their terms. If you're looking to order really high-graded diamonds, for example, then there might be a minimum quantity of, let's say, 100, which is not uncommon. So you really need to just be committed and sure that you want to incorporate them into or as part of your jewelry collection. And if you do, that's great. And that's just part of the investment you need to put down up front. Okay, friends, I hope that was helpful. Please continue to support the channel by liking or subscribing. And of course, I'm always welcoming any other topics that you may wish for me to cover for future videos. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Take care. Bye.